G'day guys, welcome back. So the ute is home from paint. As you can see, we went with the Bermuda blue. Looks pretty awesome. I'm actually really glad I went this way. Left it out in the rain last night, unfortunately. But should be right. Alright, so we'll drag that inside, we'll get it on the lift. Been racking my brain on the best way to get this motor and trans installed and without scratching things. So I think what we're going to do is put the starter swap on the motor and the flex plate and put the motor in from the top, and we may put the transmission in from underneath. So what parts we've got: our sexy LS, we've been over this in the last video. Starter swap and starter motor from Rod Shop. BTE torque converter. It is a 36 to 4000 stall, TCI Turbo 400, and there's an Aeroflow flex plate and ARP rod bolt, ARP flex plate bolts somewhere. So I'll get this car up on the lift and we'll get to sticking this thing in. Fingers crossed, no damage. All right, let's get into it. Rightio, so got the engine and box in. It's probably the easy bit really. Had to remove the steering column, which is okay because this was a column shift ute anyway, so it was coming out anyway. The pipes actually run down through, the steering column runs through the extractors. So as you can see, there's really not that much room. This side's generally pretty good, even though we've got to put the starter and all that in there. So got a bit of a clearance issue with the gearbox, the torque converter to the flex plate. So to me it seems a little tight. So I've just put a couple of bolts in that. I get a feeling that gearbox is going to have to come back out. We're going to have to machine that spacer. I don't think I've ever done one of these swaps that's needed a starter swap that hasn't need that spacer custom machined. It still baffles me how we buy a conversion kit and shit still doesn't fit. So anyway, I'll keep going with these pipes and we'll come back to the spacer and I'll run through what we're going to have to do there. So, all right, let's keep going. Okay, so Turbo 400's up in the car. It's going to measure the tail shaft length. So anyone doing something similar, this should be pretty close. So still running the Borg-Warner diff in the rear. Even once we do tub it, we're still going to keep the Borg-Warner. So the rear half of the tail shaft won't change length. So trusty jig, we've seen this one before on such episodes as the VL Powerglide. So what we do, we measure from that gearbox seal there. So I'll just extend this a little further. So right there, gearbox seal to the center of your center bearing. So on this one, I'm going to say that's 587 millimeters. So we'll get that made and get that installed. All right, keep moving on. Okay, so when you're running a Turbo 400, 350 Powerglide or whatnot behind one of these engines, if you're running a factory style torque converter, as in one that's designed for a small block, big block Chev, you need to run these adapters. It's for the converter. It's like a spigot because the torque converter isn't, the spigot on the back isn't long enough. So with mine, this is just a spare one. I had to machine this edge and then this edge down 2 mil. So ideally you want between 3 and 5 millimeters clearance between the crank and the torque converter, so end float, so to speak. Otherwise you're loading up against the pump and you really don't want to be doing that because you can wear the pump out. That's pretty much it for the issues so far. So what we'll do is we'll get the tail shaft made. So we went over the measurement for that. Gonna run an Astra Power steering setup on this one. I was tempted to actually modify the steering rack and make it a manual rack, but not gonna go that way. Decided the Astra Power steering might be the way to go. I haven't done one before, and I'm all about learning new shit. So what I'm thinking is we might actually mount it under here and we'll run the fill through the top here so you can get to it. So it basically fits the factory location. Run some lines over to the rack. We've got a Holley Terminator system for this car that's turned up. So we'll be working on the exhaust next. We're going to run twin 3s with no mufflers and 3.5-inch blast pipes through the guts. So that should be interesting. So we'll probably go over all that in the next video. So I'll catch us on the next one. There's a bit of an update.